Good afternoon, Gary. How are you today?
Great, thanks. Yeah.
Good man. Welcome to the Business Spotlight. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak to me today. So can we start, Gary? Could you tell me a little about yourself, what you do and how you came to be doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name's Gary Lyons. I'm co-founder and CEO of RegTick. And RegTick is the simple, clear path to compliance. And so basically what we do is we will take a regulation, we code it into the platform, and rather than just sort of abandoning you there and saying, there it is, get on with it, what we have sitting underneath that is the process. So what's the way we should actually do this behavior? And then what the platform does is the platform logs everything that you do so that, God forbid, in 4 or 5 years' time, when the regulator comes along and says, can you please explain why you've done this? Rather than having a mad scramble to find all those folders and documents that have been put away in storage, you just press print and everything comes out all annotated and logged. So we incorporate it back in August of 2020.
So from memory, yeah, that was right in the middle of lockdown then, August 2020.
It was indeed. It was indeed, where everybody vanished and there was nobody to speak to. Good time to actually develop an IT platform though, because there was plenty of time to do it.
This is true. I remember it vividly because a couple of months before I had a big birthday and we literally sat and stared at each other around the table before.
Yes.
So
yes.
Gary, when you were growing up, in your formative years, is this what you imagined you would end up doing?
No, absolutely not. No, I always wanted to be a detective. That's what I always wanted to be. Too many dodgy 70s and 80s TV shows, but I always wanted to be a detective. That's what I wanted.
And was there any particular one that you would have aspired to be?
No. Any similarities with Kojak, I will refute completely. No, there wasn't really. No, it was something as a kid. I always decided I wanted to be a detective. So that was it.
And from a RegTick perspective, who would be your ideal customer?
Probably for us, it's the larger tier 1 financial institutions or the large consultancy companies who would be giving regulatory advice would be who we would ideally like to partner with.
And in terms of the business that was born during the pandemic, are there anything that was integral at the start that has remained as part of the business?
Well, I mean, there's all the classic things about, the sort of the pandemic and, promoting working from home and, more casual dress code and, not having to traipse around the country and waste half your day, trying to get to meetings. I suppose for us, the biggest thing about the impact of COVID and the pandemic was that it provided that burning platform to really push people into being more technological. From our point of view, our platform is a SaaS platform that sits remotely in the cloud. And it really got through a lot of the sort of probably the traditional nervousness about, not having bums on seats in an office doing a thing, that it really pushed that whole agenda of remote working for us.
What would you say has been your biggest learning since becoming a business owner?
Well, I suppose, we are firmly a technology, a SaaS provider and providing company, but I suppose it's still about people. At the end of the day, people buy people. You can have the best, sexiest software in the world, but if you don't speak to people, if you can't speak to people, it's a hard gig. It's a hard sell. It's still about people to us.
And that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And what would you say has been the biggest surprise of business ownership?
The industry that surrounds you to make it confusing, I would say. There's an awful lot of, I wouldn't do it that ways out there. I think if you need to know what you know, but don't be scared to admit what you don't know, and don't be scared to ask. Particularly Northern Ireland, there are a lot of genuine experts in Northern Ireland. So I think what we've learned really is the biggest surprise probably was that there's a lot of people that, as I said, would tell you, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, but just be a bit more confident. And I think the other thing is, you know, if you've got a good idea, be brave about it. Don't be shy. You know, stand up and say that you're good. You know, we have that wonderful Northern Ireland thing about, you know, looking down at our feet when, you know, we're talking to people. I mean, stand toe to toe with anybody in London or New York or wherever you want. We're just as good as anybody else.
It's interesting you say that aspect of culture or perceived culture has cropped up a couple of times in these interviews. So it's interesting to hear that again. And who or what gives you the most inspiration today, Gary?
I suppose that the what is the drive to succeed, is the drive to, you know, when as a, you know, we've only been going for a couple of years, you know, when you get those knocks fairly early on, and you know, despite the fact that we think we've really recreated the wheel, there's people telling you, well, actually, no, you haven't, and yours isn't really a very good wheel at all. So for me personally, it's the personal drive. I suppose the who, we were very lucky as a startup. We got an angel investor, a man called Tom O'Gorman, who invested significantly in our business. I mean, Tommy invested over £1 million in our business. And Tom is quite the most inspirational chap you will meet. Self-made man, exited a company in the billions, Tom exited in, and is really the most brutally refreshing chap to sit with and talk about business, because he just gets right to the heart of it. Tom's for us, has been a real mentor, I would say.
Brilliant, brilliant. And if it were possible and you could go back 15 or 20 years and speak to your 18-year-old self, what sort of advice would you be dishing out?
Listen, you're not there yet, you're not the finished article by any stretch. I suppose, personally speaking, you know, I was always told, oh, you leave school, you do a degree, you do da, 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 da. Well, I didn't. I didn't leave school and do a degree. I left school and went to London and became a policeman. I didn't do my degree until I was in my 40s. I just think nowadays there's so much opportunity if you're a bit brave, and don't be scared to follow the dream. Go for it. You know, so I suppose, what would I tell myself? Again, I'm maybe very, very fortuitous in that I probably wouldn't change very much.
Good stuff. Give some good advice there. To follow everyone's path is different. That's excellent advice. And what are you most excited about from your business perspective in 2023, in the year ahead?
I think it's been what I've learned about developing a business in the technology world is every number is about 3 times bigger than you thought, and that's length to being finished and cost. So it's a tough process, but we've got there. You know, the platform's finished, it's tried, it's tested, it's ready to go. So I'm excited now about doing the business. We've done the time now and getting it there. Now is the time to convert the customers. Now is the time to get out and to scale. So that's exciting.
Brilliant, brilliant. And if somebody was interested in what they've heard from you and they wanted to reach out, Gary, what would be the best way to go about that?
Just grab me on LinkedIn. I'll accept your friend request and happy to have a chat. Yeah, no problem.
Fantastic. Well, Gary Lyons from RegTick, thank you very much for sharing your story, and I wish you all the success in 2023 and beyond. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.